Arr, Pirate fans, it's time to find out the state of the ship of your defending champions for the 2022 season with your hosts, Johnny Wolver and Jake Ignaszewski. And now, brought to you by Resonate, it's the state of the ship.
Welcome back into the state of the pirate ship. I am your host, Team Insider Jake Ignaszewski, and in this episode, we'll be recapping the Pirates' final regular season win against the San Diego Strike Force, and now looking forward to their first playoff game of the 2022 season this Friday against the Quad City Steamwheelers. But let's start off talking about the final regular season win for the Pirates. They ended up completing the 2022 campaign with a record of 11-5, but in my opinion, this final game of the regular season was their most complete game on all three phases of the game. They made plays offensively, incredible plays defensively, and also on special teams to ultimately help them get the victory against the Strike Force 60-17. And we also saw a face that we have missed for a long time. Over the last 6 weeks or so, Alejandro Benefield, the Pirates' starting quarterback, returned under center for Massachusetts after getting injured against the Sioux Falls Storm, as I mentioned 6 weeks ago, as he's been rehabbing all throughout that time. And we've seen Taz Wilson do a great job of filling in for him, but he came back at the perfect time right before the Pirates are gearing up for a deep playoff run to help them hoist up that trophy once again and defend their title. But Alejandro looked like he didn't miss a step whatsoever and came right back into the Pirates offense, flowing and helping them go down the field very seamlessly all throughout this game. It seemed like he played the first three quarters, and then we saw backup quarterback Mike Glass come in for the fourth quarter to ultimately help the Pirates seal the deal. Alejandro ended up finishing the game 6 for 11 passing for 43 total yards and a touchdown, and also ended up rushing in 2 total touchdowns as well. And then we saw Thomas Owens was the leading receiver, ended up reeling in 2 catches for 57 yards with a touchdown. And on that touchdown came in the fourth quarter from the only pass that Mike Glass ultimately made throughout the game. And boy, was it a beauty. I mean, you could put this on SportsCenter's top 10 plays, and in my opinion, this would go number 1. But Owens ended up getting wide open down the field, and Glass ended up throwing a long pass for a 49-yard touchdown to really pack on the lead for the Pirates there in the fourth quarter. And then we saw a new player at the running back position in wide receiver Jalen Marshall. He ended up doing a really nice job on the ground for the Pirates. Ended up getting taken out of the game a little bit early due to an injury, but he did end up rushing 38 total yards for 5 carries. And then looking at the special teams, in my opinion, this was the best special teams performance that the team has had throughout the season. We've seen them sometimes struggle here and there with kick returns and being able to get some of those long returns that we saw last season from their kick returner, Laquiviante Gonzalez, who ultimately ended up winning an award at the end of the season for All-Rookie Special Teams Player of the Year. But really being able to see Isaac Zico and Javon Durant look a lot more comfortable returning the ball. They both ended up ultimately getting 2 rushing touchdowns, which both came at the perfect time in the fourth quarter to ultimately help the Pirates pile on that lead. But it was pretty incredible with both of their returns to see how seamlessly they were really able to find those holes. And that's been, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues during those returns, is being able to find that holes in the return defense. And, we even saw, at times they tried to, come back around and sort of fool the defense sometimes, but I feel like some of these guys sometimes forget that there's walls around the field and it's not outdoor ball, so they're not really able to come back around on some of those rushes and be able to make a long run or fool the defense. But it was really nice to see, the return game be a lot more efficient in this one, but also really looking at the return defense as well. There was multiple times where the Pirates were able to pin the strike force returner back to the end zone and really set them up for a very tough offensive drive. There was multiple plays where they ended up placing the ball at the 2 or 3 yard line, which as an offense makes it super difficult for you to really be able to develop anything. And you really got to rush the ball to be able to get unpinned out of that red zone. But it was really nice to see that unit really start to figure it out, especially gearing up for the playoffs when field position is so critical and matters so much throughout each and every single game, and really every single unit is just so important during a playoff game. Obviously it's one game elimination in the IFL, and the Pirates really need to find a way to use this momentum over not only this great win against the Strike Force, but also their win before this week during the Bay Area game. They're now riding a 2-game winning streak with a lot of momentum going into this game on Friday against the Quad City Steamwheelers. But defensively, it was really nice to see this team really shut down the Strike Force offense on every single unit, the rushing wise, also passing wise as well. And we saw Ezekiel Rose lead tacklers with 8 tackles and 1 for a loss as well. And then Debian Renfro ended up also having 7 stops as well. He also got his first interception in a Pirates uniform, but somebody who also was racking up some of those numbers throughout the season and throughout his Pirates career and ended up tying a Pirates all-time record was Maxie Penn, who ended up reeling in a pick 6 for his 12th interception in his Pirates career, which tied him for the all-time Pirates interceptions record. And he also now leads the Pirates all-time in pick 6s as well. We saw him have a few of those that were so critical in last year's playoffs, not only interceptions, but also pick 6s. So hopefully he's able to repeat his success of being able to take the ball away from the quarterback, followed into the playoffs. He now leads the league and ultimately ends the regular season as the leader in interceptions. So it's been really cool to see Maxie Penn continuing the success that he had last season, and hopefully he can roll that success into the playoffs. But looking now at this next matchup that the Pirates have on Friday for their first playoff game of the 2022 season, and we all know how important it is for a team to get that advantage of that home playoff game. The crowd is always in it on every single play and is really able to amp up and motivate the players of the home team to really do their best to play great football on all 3 phases of the game. And we all know throughout whatever sport is being played, having the home field advantage is just so important, especially in these playoffs for the Pirates when every single game matters, and this game will ultimately help them advance to the conference finals. But the Pirates will look to have similar success against the Steamwheelers that they had back in week 4 when they were able to win 36-25. And Alejandro Benefield will look to repeat his great game that he had back in that last matchup when he ended up totaling for 146 passing yards with 3 touchdowns and also rushed in a score as well. So the Pirates, their keys for winning this game after looking at the numbers from what the Steamwheelers have been able to do throughout this season is to run the ball down the throat of Quad City and also really focus on trying to sack the quarterback. Starting off with the running game and why that's so important. We've seen the Quad City defense have a really difficult job of being able to stop the run. They currently right now have allowed the most rushing yards in the league, and it's not even by a small margin whatsoever. The second team that has allowed the most is 216 yards behind the Steamwheelers. And so Dedrick Thomas and Jalen Marshall are really going to have to practice throughout this season, finding ways to really take advantage of the lack of the rushing defense that the Steamwheelers have and really find a way to find those holes so then they're able to run it down their throat and take advantage of their lack of efficiency on this part of their defense. And now looking as well as why the Pirates need to really focus on sacking the quarterback. Well, that's because the Steamwheelers have allowed the most sacks in the league with 28. And looking at the Pirates, they currently rank 5th right now in the league in terms of sacks on their defense. And so they've done a really good job throughout this season being able to get to the quarterback and get him down. So they're just going to have to repeat that efficiency during this one. I think those are the biggest keys for the Pirates to be able to beat the Steamwheelers and ultimately advance to the conference championship. But really looking at what they're going to have to be aware of is the Steamwheelers quarterback, E.J. Hilliard. Now, the Pirates did not see Hilliard when they last played them in Week 4. Aaron Aiken and David Perkins were both under center, ended up splitting up the snaps during that Week 4 matchup, but E.J. Hilliard ended up ultimately taking the starting role just a few games after that, and boy, has he made an impact for that Steamwheelers offense. He ended up averaging the 5th most passing yards in the league so far this year with 137.1 yards per game, and then also is one of their most efficient runners on the ground. He currently ranks 2nd in the league, averaging 51 yards on the ground. And first is DJ Peterson for the Iowa Barnstormers. And we've seen how hard of a time the Pirates have had throughout this season being able to stop scrambling quarterbacks and not allow them to extend the play. And we saw just a few weeks back the leader in average rushing yards, DJ Peterson, really find a way to carve through this Pirates defense and find those holes, and that ultimately ended up really hurting them in their loss in Iowa just a few weeks ago. And so they're really going to have to learn from that weakness that they've had throughout this season and find a way to stop E.J. Hilliard and not allow him to scramble out of the pocket and really keep him sticking to being a pocket passer. I think that's really critical for them. Obviously, as I mentioned, he's one of the best passing quarterbacks in the league this year. But if you're able to keep him in the pocket, that'll make it a lot easier for these defensive players to find a way to get him down and ultimately sack him. But he ended up doing a really good job in Quad Cities last game, where they ended up defeating, funny enough, the Iowa Barnstormers 42-35. This game was a shootout, and it was also a really good preview for what the Pirates could see defensively from the Quad City Steamwheelers, where they really struggled being able to stop DJ Peterson and the Barnstormers offense. And this, as I mentioned, was essentially a shootout throughout this game until ultimately the 4th quarter ended, and Quad City was able to sack DJ Peterson to end the game, but Hilliard ended up finding a way to make a huge impact, not only with his arm, but also with his legs. He ended up totaling 150 yards passing, ended up also throwing a passing touchdown, but on the ground through 17 carries, he ended up rushing 74 yards and scoring 3 touchdowns. And so the Pirates are really going to have to find a way to avoid that from happening this Friday, because if Hilliard is able to run it down their throat and really be able to take advantage of the Pirates' lack of rushing defense, this is going to be a similar shootout game that we saw last week from Quad City when they played the Barnstormers. So hopefully the Pirates are able to learn from their mistakes during past times defending against scrambling quarterbacks, and are really able to pick apart the film and figure out how they're going to be able to stop E.J. Hilliard with how efficient he is as a dual quarterback. But it's going to be really exciting to see, all the fans come out to the DCU Center, cheer on the Pirates for their first playoff game of this 2022 season as they start their march during these playoffs to, as we've said throughout this season, defend the ship and defend their title and ultimately hoist up that trophy at the end of the season. But if you want to see this great game that's going to be happening on July 22nd, this Friday at 7 p.m. against the Steamwheelers, you can go to Ticketmaster right now and get your tickets today. Trust me, it's going to be a great game. You definitely don't want to miss this one. It's going to be filled with great offense against great defenses, and this is going to be a very fun showing, in my opinion, from both teams. But all we can do is hope and pray that we can see a similar dominant game from the Pirates as we saw this past week against the Strike Force. But as I mentioned, go and get your tickets today. We hope to see you on Friday. But as always, greatly appreciate everybody tuning in to the State of the Pirate Ship, and make sure to stay tuned throughout these playoffs to get updated about the Pirates each and every single week. And I will actually be posting tomorrow a Coach's Corner with Coach Kaiser to give you guys insight a little bit about how he is preparing the team prior to Friday's playoff game. So make sure to check that out to get some insight on what he is specifically doing to stop EJ Hilliard and learn from the Pirates' past mistakes when defending against a scrambling quarterback, and learn how he is preparing the team about everything we talked about today. But in order to get notified about everything that we post about the Pirates on not only the YouTube channel, but through the podcast, also through the Coach's Corner, make sure to subscribe on YouTube. But for the podcast, we also do post the audio version on whatever audio platform that you use to listen to your podcast. But greatly appreciate everybody tuning in as always, and we'll see you next week. Go Pirates! And that will end it how we always end it. Arg!